Welcome to Travel Buddy, presented by Switchfly. In this podcast, we talk about all things travel, rewards, and loyalty. Let's get to it.
Today, we're talking about how everyday brands can build lifestyle loyalty. And I want to start with two examples of what we're talking about here, because we want to connect that when we think aspirationally, again, this is aspirational, about the ways that brands can build loyalty in a deeper sense of loyalty beyond just discounts and points redemptions on certain products. There is a deeper philosophical view that consumers have, and the greatest brands on earth connect deeply with those views as best you can. Not every brand has the budget, sometimes not the product or service to be able to really capture this. So we understand that and acknowledge that. But I think there's some really deep emotional resonance that you can have with buyers. And I think that ties directly into a loyalty brand. And so my example, when we were thinking about this episode, was a company called Unbound Merino. And if you guys are deep on the Reddit community of the one bag travel experience, r/one bag, everybody talks about merino wool because it's very light, it's packable, it wicks moisture, it doesn't smell, theoretically. And so you can wear one outfit for a whole week. You know, you just air dry it at night in your hotel room and boom, you got one tiny little bag with one outfit, maybe two, and you're good to go. So that's an extreme case, but it's really captivating for me. And I'll tell you why. Because I have this worldview that I want less stuff. I want less stuff because the world feels chaotic. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and sometimes I just want to not think about anything, including changing my clothes or what kind of clothes I'm wearing, because I'm just so overwhelmed. As many people, you listening, might feel the same way. Merino wool, you should check it out. Unbound Merino, not sponsoring this episode. Great brand, seemingly.
So I love how your comment of wanting less stuff is accompanied by you wanting to buy this new thing. Like this buying more things is going to help you have less stuff. Yeah.
Hello, it's called marketing. But yes, but that is the irony that is my life and pretty much everybody that buys things, I would say. Yeah, no, so it is. And not only is it buying more stuff, it is buying the most expensive $120 shirt you could possibly imagine. So yeah, it's not ideal. It is ironic. But this is how you tell a great story and you connect to these deeper things. And I think if you can do that well and you build this community around people that are, one baggers who love merino wool, I think there's like real opportunities to build the kind of loyalty that we all aspire to in our efforts and our programs. And so that's one example that sets the context for this episode. But Rachel, you were talking before we started recording about another brand that gets you thinking about this topic as well. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, and before I dive into my example, Ian's definitely going to judge me too for this one and has already shamed me offline for it. But so for our listeners, it's kind of been trickled out before. I have just purchased a new home. We are currently undergoing a ton of renovations, and with that usually comes just like an aesthetic overhaul of some of the furniture that you have and the lighting that's there, etc. And one of the things that we have been considering is a new bed frame, just something to, replace one that was difficult to put together, was very, it's going to be a pain in the butt to move. It's loud. It's like uncomfortable. And frankly, it's a metal frame one that is not going to last forever. So in that process and in aligning it with the aesthetic side of it, we're looking at a brand called Thuma, which has the traditional Japanese joinery, acacia wood frame that boasts, not only is it sustainably sourced, but it's also, easy to put together. The longevity of the product is there. And it does come with like a fairly large sticker price in comparison to some of its competitors, which also have the same style. However, one of the things that I think Thuma does right is it really puts that message, that like lifestyle aspect, first and foremost in their messaging. A lot of it has to do, yes, with the aesthetic of the bed, but it also aligns with, I want to make sure that I'm purchasing something that doesn't contribute to additional waste or isn't, insustainably sourced or something along those lines. And whether or not that is 100% true of this brand, they do a good job of trying to communicate and align with those things that I'm also looking for outside of the fact of, I just want a bed frame that has a mid-century modern look. It really does kind of like connect into people who are looking to make a purchase like this are also probably aligning with this other greater worldview. And if they aren't already, maybe we can convince them to. And also, it justifies the sticker price a little bit more. So that's my example, similar to yours with $120 shirt. And it really does kind of like showcase that some of these brands are starting to align with a messaging and a product outlook of just going beyond, you like this because it's mid-century modern. You like this because the material is nice on your skin, etc.
And it's also beyond, and I think this is, thinking about our first segment here, it goes beyond just a discount or just a, workflow in the customer journey of how people move through and then how they can, redeem their points. It gets into the operations, the values of the company. It gets into suppliers. It gets into a lot of other aspects of the business. So all granted, and we're all noting that we did just talk about the two most premium brands within the categories that we're talking about. But all that aside and all that as a given, I think connecting to that deeper level is something that is really important and really valuable for a lot of brands out there thinking about their loyalty programs.
You made a comment real quick there that made me think of something that I've been noodling on as far as like discounts drive the next purchase, right? Where kind of the lifestyle loyalty is building a longer term relationship. And sometimes that can mean sacrificing like highest potential ROI on any given campaign or product line. It might eat into margins at times, right? But the goal really is to maximize the customer lifetime value of a particular customer. For some brands, that's sort of built into the business model, things like Rolex or Ferrari, or, we just got off vacation and my wife, Rachel, even mentioned seeing on Instagram my wife's new Balenciaga bag, like something that I would never in a million years purchase for myself or think to purchase. But because of the way this company is like developed itself, the quality of the product, the aura of what it is, they have created, a whole market of women like and men like people like my wife who are going to be shopping there, when we can for the rest of our lives, I'm sure, to one degree or another. And so it's really trying to find a balance between maximizing every single marketing effort, maximizing ROI, versus finding those points to which you can either, whether it's the messaging or whether, like you're saying, whether it's operationally, make some tweaks to change your company / marketing to be a little bit more lifestyle focused.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I'll add about all of the brands that we're talking about is, to Ian, your point, they do already align with a certain lifestyle, with a certain aesthetic, with a certain customer profile, right? And like, for example, if someone was, if I don't remember the wool name you said, but the merino wool shirt and the brand that you were talking about, Brandon, they likely already know that their ideal customer is someone who is a one bag tripper, and they probably also align very well with the adventurers of the world, people who like to travel and explore outdoors because it is a very sturdy product. That brand would have a a nice little opening to slot in rewards that go beyond, oh, you can redeem for a free shirt, or here's, a different type of product that we can add in as a thank you. They already can expand their rewards catalog to align with travel rewards because of the type of person that they are targeting for their product. I think one of the biggest challenges is we know that there are brands that already fit into these categories: entertainment, recreation, everything with brands that align already to things that people are doing outside of work. The brands that struggle with this are things like grocery and fuel and convenience stores and household products, because they are usually framed in the consumer's mind as task-oriented brands. They need to clean their house, so they need this product. They may value them highly without feeling very personally connected to a specific type of brand, but that doesn't mean that those everyday categories lack that emotional connection or that lifestyle alignment. It just means that they need to find that lifestyle alignment. For example, I use the Myers brand for my cleaning products.
Just thinking Yes, I was just thinking about them.
Yeah. Do I think that this cleaning product, do I think about this cleaning product and when I'm not using it? Not really, except in this exact moment. But that is a household purchase. That is a task-oriented purchase that I have made. But I chose that brand, again, whether or not their marketing holds 100% true, but I chose that brand because it aligns with the view that I have, that I want products that are naturally sourced, or at least a little bit better for me than heavy chemicals. So they market in a way, and they align with that lifestyle aspect in a way that I think many brands can start to just reframe the way they think about how people are actually interacting with their company.
I think that's a really good point. And two points I want to make on that. The first is it can be different. You mentioned cleaning products, but others like gasoline or just sort of everyday household items. The trick the trouble with creating this sort of lifestyle loyalty program around it is they're just such interchangeable goods, right? Like gas at your local BP is literally the exact same as gas at local Conoco. So price is your only differential. And when the price points are so relatively static, when you might get a couple of pennies from gas stations across the street from each other off, they're generally going to be pretty close. So how do you go about differentiating yourself to create that sort of lifestyle loyalty? And a brand, I think, does a really good job of that. I'm thinking about sort of common household everyday items is Johnson & Johnson. They've really spent the last 40, 50 years or so trying to separate themselves from competitors as a I don't know what you'd even call it necessarily, a family-oriented, gentle, pro-environment, people-ish kind of brand, even though and they're a ginormous company, right? They make a ton of different stuff, but what they do make is relatively comparable to the exact same stuff their competitors make, right? It's not, like I mentioned earlier, it's not a Ferrari where the quality is the differentiator. It is really the way the company has positioned themselves. And I think you're seeing a lot of that more in brands that 5-10 years ago, we would have never mentioned in lifestyle loyalty space, like Walmart. And I was actually looking recently at the Walmart's Plus benefits stuff if you go with them, and the fact they're bringing in everything like fuel and streaming services and travel bookings and a whole bunch of different things. They're really trying to create a sort of we'll take care of everything sort of experience for you, right? Like we will be your first stop for pretty much every purchase you need to make. And whether or not that purchase is directly with Walmart, they want to be that gatekeeper and at least like help and direct you to it. So there are plenty of ways to kind of go about this, even if you're not necessarily a brand that has a clear differentiator or a product that aligns itself to massive differentiation.
Yeah, I love that example of Walmart Plus, because that was also one I was thinking about. Before I bring up my other example, is like the thing that I would reiterate here is these brands, it's not that they lack the emotional or lifestyle potential. To your point, Ian, Johnson & Johnson has spent 40 to 50 years building this. And like you said before, sometimes you need to sacrifice the next purchase and the maximum ROI in order to build that like truly like long-term loyalty and long-term brand story. It doesn't mean that they don't have an emotional or lifestyle alignment. It just means that the emotional territory looks a little different for them. And the thing is, brands should start to find other categories that align similarly with the emotional territory that they are working in. Whether that, I'm not talking about additional competitors, more so, is there a brand that has the same, emotional connection to my consumers and operates in a separate, a separate entity, a separate industry. And, a lot of these brands, they center upon feeling prepared, on taking care of others, on ensuring a healthy family, saving time, etc. And one of the brands that I think has done a really amazing job in identifying parallel industries that have a similar emotional connection, or at least, enough so that it would make sense to partner and expand with, is T-Mobile. So again, I'm a little biased. I've been with T-Mobile the entire time I've had a cell phone for the most part. But, 20 years ago, T-Mobile, AT&T, Singular, etc., like they all were there to justify a single thing. I needed to be able to communicate on the go. That was it. Like they offer me the ability to have a cell phone. And now T-Mobile has completely revamped its rewards and loyalty strategy to the point where like every Tuesday, today's Tuesday, I'm going to log on to my T-Life app and I'm going to see what rewards being a T-Mobile member and someone who uses T-Mobile allows me to have. I'm going to get to download, 20 cents off of gas and potentially a free movie or early access to lower cost tickets to a movie that I want to see. They even offer like travel rewards or discounted travel through my cell phone bill, like all because I'm a T-Mobile subscriber. I get access to all of that. And I think that is a really great way, a really great showcase of just because you are in a certain industry and you have a certain consumer and your immediate benefit that you provide to these individuals fits one category, doesn't mean that your rewards and your loyalty program can't also expand to fit other aspects of their life. I mean, they even provide, like free Netflix and Apple TV and a slew of other things. All of that is like, quote unquote, on them just because you're a subscriber. And that to me holds so much more value than they have reliable service. Is that amazing? Absolutely. But that, like, it just stacks on. It's really like the cherry on top.
But that's the minimum, right? Like reliable service anymore,
exactly.
Right? For them is the minimum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you used to see all kinds of commercials about we have 94% coverage across the United States, and it's like, well, so does everybody else. That became less of a thing. But I think both of your examples, T-Mobile and Walmart, are also examples of how you can change customers' perceptions over time. So by thinking aspirationally, by thinking about the entire customer journey or all the things about why they would connect or what could be done in the future, could be partnerships like you're kind of getting at, Rachel, but like I'm thinking of Walmart because I see you can get in the American Express Platinum membership, you can get like $300 off of a Walmart Plus subscription. And it comes with all these other benefits, of course. But it's interesting that Walmart is connecting with what has been the premium, card for a long time. But at the same time, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a conversation where, we're at church or out and about and somebody comes up and they're like, "Oh, I love that dress." And the other woman goes, "Guess where I got it?" And they say, "Where?" And the other woman says, "At Walmart." And they go, "Oh my gosh, can you believe it?" And they all start talking about how great Walmart's clothes are and how many times they're going back now to Walmart, which are people that often are not at Walmart, but it's like they're changing the perception about who they are in the buyer's mind. And I think that's really powerful to do that through loyalty.
Important thing to point out about that.
It's great.
An important point to make about that though, Brandon, is that's taken a long time for Walmart, right? Like I remember this was late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in there, that when Levi jeans started selling their jeans through Walmart, and instead of raising the like, oh, Walmart has like good quality stuff now, it made people think, oh, Levi is kind of junk now and is selling through Walmart, right? And it took a long time to sort of shake that reputation and stigma for Walmart, and it was just slowly adding more and more quality products, right? And eventually getting through it. So I think my point is just like, this is not an overnight thing, right? This is, I mean, we are really literally talking about lifetime loyalty. Like this is company lifetime as well as customer lifetime positioning. So it needs to be a long-term strategy that is not just from what your marketing department is saying, right? This is a like top-down organizational challenge that your marketing and your sales and marketing need to convey. But this really does need to be a totally holistic sort of, not even change, just like, I don't know, coalescing of an idea of what more your company can be and what additionally it can offer, right? And I think something that's important to that is just pure authenticity, right? Of if you're a outdoors goods supplier, or clothing company, somebody like an REI or, something like that, like obviously a lot of your marketing and loyalty offerings and things like that are going to be sort of around the outdoor world, right? Whether it's vacations, whether it's, camping and national park tickets and, whatever, like there's going to be sort of a common theme there. And every company is going to have something like that, whether you're travel or fuel or, anything else, there's going to be sort of a common theme. And I think that's a great place to start, is thinking about what your it's not necessarily company values, but I think it's sort of close to your company values. And there's some crossover there, but like what values, what industry, like where does all that stuff intersect? And then how can we connect with people who either share those same values or regularly shop in this industry or, whatever it is. How do we connect with them? And then what else can we provide that would be useful for somebody who's in this space, right? Like Rachel mentioned T-Mobile offering, discount Netflix or whatever, like, it makes sense. Like T-Mobile is the place where you get, data services through. Here's a common data service that people need, right? Is to watch streaming videos. So there's that connection there that like is a value add. It's not a gas company offering, movie tickets or whatever, which I'm sure there can be those connections there, but it's not necessarily like intuitive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's important to remember this is a long-term strategy and needs to be top down, left, right, bottom up, for the whole company.
Yeah, I would almost say, like, if we were talking about a framework of how to even get started on this as a brand that doesn't naturally align with lifestyle loyalty or naturally align with emotional loyalty, outside of like defining your core values and finding consumers that, have that core value or align with that core value. I think one of the biggest thing is like simply ask the question, what is the functional reason customers are choosing a brand or even choosing to do a certain activity? So for example, like grocery stores, whether that be Publix, whether that be Wegmans, whether that be, whatever your regional, your local store, we have one here that's a local store, they help people feed a household. That's the simple fact. That is the functional reason people go to grocery stores. They help people feed our household. For them, outside of that, like map the surrounding life context. Outside of, people need to eat, like they may also be budgeting. They may also need specific meal types. Like maybe the household has a bunch of allergies that they need to fulfill. Maybe they are, doing meal prep because of a health reason, like they're trying to, or even just a time saving reason, whatever that may be. Like map the surrounding context of like why the function is happening, because that's where a lot of opportunities will start to pop up in terms of being able to like identify, this is a branch that we haven't thought of before.
And you're collecting that data anyway, right?
Exactly,
like you're already collecting that data, right? And no, that's a great example. And Rachel, I'm sorry, I totally stepped on, but you sparked something that I completely forgotten about until you were talking. Was last year when my son was getting ready for running for his cross country team, we bought him a new pair of running shoes, and I started getting these emails from Nike about like running clubs that you can like join sort of interactively. They send out like nutrition data emails, just stuff that's sort of around the running space of data that they've already collected. They already know. All they're doing is like providing that to you, right? Rather, instead of just using it internally for additional sales, they're providing an additional offering, like totally free of charge to that's beneficial, right? And I think every company has that kind of data in their database, in their CRM. They can go in and exactly what Rachel was saying is they can sort of connect the dots between purchases being made and make some like pretty easy assumptions about somebody's lifestyle, whether it's a meal plan prep thing for the next week, or the running club, or like, there's 1,000 different ideas you could come up with. But the point is you're already collecting that data. It's really not that much extra effort to generate some like automated marketing email type things that provide actual value to people, rather than just like, here's a free coupon for your next visit.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, we're marketers in this room, so we're already like, that's why we're probably nerding out about it as much as we are right now. But like we're taking that view of like, your messaging could align with this or anything like that. But to Ian, what you were saying before, like it really is an operational change. Like you need to ensure that from the top down, everyone is aligned with how you're going about creating this lifestyle loyalty and making the sacrifices that are required in order to maximize your customer lifetime value. And like, going back to like the framework, once you've had that, you've taken a look at that data of what you have available, you can find gaps of what you aren't sure about. So like using the grocery example, like one of the things you'll want to ensure you're tracking if you do start to implement either whether it's free resources or, what to your example, like community resources, like, oh, in your area, here's other run clubs or virtual run clubs that you can do. Like, you'll want to start to be able to track the share of the routine. And in order to do that, you need to know the gaps in your data. So for example, like going to the grocery example, I go to the grocery store when I need to do a quick pickup for lunch, and I need to actually shop for my whole family when I like forgot an ingredient, etc. All of those trips add up, and I may not go to the same grocery store for all of those trips. It is important for a brand that is trying to tap into this to know, okay, at the broad level, whether that be how many trips they're taking to your store, or you need to then find what is the research showing consumers in general go to grocery stores, convenience stores, X amount of times a week, so that you can say, okay, we are now garnering more of those trips than we were before. And I think that's a really great way to kind of incorporate some of this, like a new metric into your tracking for lifestyle loyalty in particular. Because if you can see that lift based off of either free resources or a shift in your messaging, then you know that, like, okay, we're building long-term commitment to a specific brand. So that's just like the secondary thing that I was thinking of, is like, how are different ways you can track this? Because outside of core loyalty metrics like your active member rate, et cetera, like, you also need to be able to showcase that you're making a core change in someone's commitment to your brand.
I think, where we started with the idea of how to drive everyday brands into a customer's lifestyle, we started with luxury because I think that's easy, especially for like a travel brand or, things like that. It's like, yeah, we've got the margin, and, these are smaller companies as well. So we've got the margin and we've got the capacity, if you will, to be able to create this very stark narrative. And we're working our way down into more everyday brands, like we talked about retailers or gas stations and things like that. But I think where we're driving a lot of this conversation is there are likely small steps that you can take working towards some of this big vision. You may not have 20 years and an unlimited budget to make this thing happen, but there are ways that in the data that you already have, in the inventory you already have, the supply chain you already have, there's probably a lot of opportunity as a loyalty leader to be looking at these things and saying, like, there is a different way that we could be thinking about this. But I know there's got to be that trade-off between, like, how do you drive more of that lifestyle, brand awareness type marketing, if you will, versus the conversion, ROI. I think those things are always at odds with any kind of marketing or loyalty program or leadership, their capacities and the resources that they have. And so my last question to y'all is, how do you help folks listening think about, I think it's easy to dream up some things that we could do. And if we had 20 years and $100 billion and we're a startup, we could just knock this out, versus like reality of, like, I'm a gas station, I've got a limited, I got limited resources, limited time. How do you make that connection between, like, how to emphasize with the given resources that they have, the brand lifestyle component versus the metrics quarterly that they are being measured on and can be fired over? Like, how do you bridge those two worlds in your mind?
I think, so the biggest thing here is, like, we're not saying that in order to align with lifestyle or emotional loyalty, you need to throw out everything that has worked for you thus far. So
the opposite.
The exact opposite. In order to find the thing that will move the needle for you in terms of lifestyle loyalty, you're going to have to test and iterate. And it's not a, like, overhaul of everything. It is hey, let's go back to the grocery store example. We know people are coming there to feed a household. That's the functional reason that they're coming. We know that one of the products that is doing really well are prepared meals, like the packaged meals, where, it has the potatoes, the sauce, the butter, the pork roast, et cetera, all in one container. Those are doing really well. Okay. Why are they doing really well? they're doing well, likely because the person purchasing it is limited on time, doesn't want to think about all of the ingredients necessary to create a delicious meal like a pork roast, doesn't want to have to go purchase more than is necessary for their 3-person family. And frankly, like, just doesn't want to think about meal planning. That's my biggest thing is I don't want to be like, on Tuesday, we are having X. It's not, my brain doesn't have space for that. And so like a possible pilot for lifestyle loyalty could be a meal planning tool for families, right? Like, let's build your grocery list based off of how many people are in your family that you need to feed. Are there any allergies? Are there any macros that you need to keep in mind? Is there any preferred brands that you already have based on the purchase data that we've already got from you? So on and so forth. Like, you can use all of that to build a meal planning tool. That alone takes that weight of, you have to go plan out all of the groceries that you're looking for, and is like, here's your list. Here's the list that you just need to go check off.
It could be even simpler of like, it could be like an email sequence, a digital content sequence.
Yeah.
If you can connect somebody that buys this thing and they bought diapers. Okay, we know they're probably parents with young kids and they don't have the time to be doing that. Like, what would be here are 5 easy recipes to try this month, with these ingredients.
Absolutely. And like, I think the variance between our answers there showcases how easy it is to scale something like this, right? Like, yes, you could test a sequence. Does the sequence, have a higher engagement rate for a certain audience than others? And then if it does, okay, how do we build upon the success of that? Let's maybe then test a tool, like a whole tool, and in the investment that takes. So I think like, even just the difference in the way we would baseline test is like, okay, you can make something you can try something that's fairly simple, and then you can also like scale it up and build more and more and more based off of the success metrics that you see of the first test.
I love that. That's
and something else too is like, there's a reason you're in business, right? You obviously provide some sort of need that your customers find valuable, but like, just using Rachel's grocery store example, say you're an independent grocery store in a particular town, like, as a business owner, other local business owners, and if you don't, get out and meet them, right? And develop some partnerships, right? That stuff can be like extremely low cost, right? Because all you're doing is partnering with another small business in the area to use each other's name to market and sell your own goods, right? Go to a local credit union and see what sort of partnerships you can do with them. If they will do, cards with your freaking image on it or whatever, your logo, like, picking on Rachel a little more, like, she's a big bicyclist fan, right? Like, go to your local bike shop and, say, hey, well, like, let us stick some of your bikes in our store and help each other out, right? Like, find partnerships that make sense, but that will help maybe bring in people that haven't come before, or ensure your existing customers like let them know about new partnerships, new offerings that you're trying to grow and expand, right? Like, there are some pretty low cost, relatively simple avenues you can take to provide additional value on top of what you're doing, and then it's just like you said, it's just communicating that with some simple marketing tools, right? And by using like good partnerships, by finding different benefits or experiences that are relatively low cost for you, but providing additional, resources and products to your customers, like, is a really good way to start expanding that life cycle loyalty.
Amen. Well, I'd like to leave listeners with this last question to hit on Rachel's point is what is your customer trying to accomplish before, during, and after they buy from you? So what is it they're trying to accomplish? What is the lifestyle around that? And to Ian's point, are there partnerships that can make that happen? Whether you're a luxury travel startup or a local gas or retail operation, there is plenty of next steps, things that you can do that are low cost, low hanging fruit that can actually make a huge difference in driving loyalty to your business. So I think that if I could summarize our entire conversation, it's been driving toward that. So guys, thank you so much, Rachel, Ian, always lovely to have you. And if you're listening, please go check out switchfly.com for more resources like this, and we will see you on the next episode.